Don't know if it's doing it. It is. Okay, good. Good. I have a new streaming setup and I'm still getting used to it. And this is the first time I've tried streaming this content. So, oh, I've forgotten to do a thing already. Just a second. While I go find my browser. That's not it. That is. Nope, that is not. There we go. And start up speech chat because I'm not going to hear anything otherwise. What? Connect. That. Continue. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Okay, that's just on the odd chance that a user shows up or a viewer shows up. I have kind of avoided doing streaming on conlangs and conscripts because I was trying to make a series of videos and I am terrible at making YouTube videos, I think. And I recently made a decision about one of the writing systems I have, my favorite, and decided that I needed to simplify the thing. I'd made it too complex. And so I'm going to try producing a simplified version of it, which to a great degree is going to consist of removing things from it. The main reason being that I keep bogging down in creating the conlang that goes with this writing system. I'm doing it sort of ass backwards. I'm creating the writing system first and then creating the conlang. I've worked on the conlang for a while. I've come up with a number of designs for it and I haven't liked any of them. And now I'm about to start again. And I'm going to start again by simplifying the writing system. And the reason I want to do that is I want to have the writing system that I want it to have, like be designed the way I want it to work and everything. And I want it to reflect the way a speaker of the language would see it. And what I've been building up until this point is more along the lines of the way somebody designing the writing system would see it. It has features it probably doesn't need to have because they wouldn't be important to the speakers of the language. So I am trying to fix that, and I imagine this is going to take a few videos and a lot of cursing, but I'm going to start on it here. And rather than try and make a YouTube video with a lot of editing and everything else, I decided I would just stream it on Twitch, and I will either post the entire stream up or I will edit bits of it later. That's because I'm finding it much easier to just stream something than it is to try and write a script for it and then shoot the right footage and then edit it in DaVinci Resolve and do all the fancy stuff that you could do and put it up. And that methodology is more complex than I want it to be, put it that way. So what am I trying? Well, what am I working on here? I will show you that. We will switch to here and here. And this is the writing system. You can see the glyphs for it up here at the top. There's a lot of them. That's due to the way I've designed it. And I will show you Ashuadi. One way of spelling it. That is what the writing system looks like. It's based on Kufic Arabic, the shapes of Kufic Arabic. I don't read Arabic at all, with a lot of changes made to make it look less like Arabic. There was a whole revision of this script called Add More Pointy Bits, for instance. It's written left to right because it's easier to design fonts that way, because I am an English speaker and I'm used to reading left to right. And trying to design a right to left font in font software that doesn't default to that is really a pain. And I didn't see any reason to try and reverse the design or anything like that. I would make it more convenient for me. I also personally find reading left to right and writing left to right as a right-handed person to be more normal. Oh, I don't have my picture up here. There. So you'll see that there is diacritics here below and above, and I want to get rid of those as much as possible and still have it be intelligible. So I'm going to change the way this version of it works. This is probably the 100th iteration of this script. It's kind of sad. But it's evolved to this point, and I want to change the way it works. So for people that don't know this or haven't watched any of my other videos, I rely heavily on ligatures and what is called Adobe OpenType font scripting. Let's bring up the preview here. Hopefully that works. Okay, so if I type in, if I type in Ashuadi again, you'll see that I'm typing in ASH, and the line below that is showing that it is going and looking up a glyph called A_SH. And that is made possible through the Adobe OpenType font scripting. You write in a series of commands that determine what is actually displayed in the font based on what the person's typed in. Now, I should note that Ashuadi has been designed such that it will group glyphs together as syllables. So ASH being all that's on screen, it will group that as ASH. If, however, I type in a U, it will switch so that it is A and SHU. And you'll see that down below there. It is now typing in A and then the glyph for SHU. And if I type in another A, it will display a single A. And when I type in DI, it displays the glyphs for DI with the diacritics that I would like to get rid of. Now, Ashuadi was originally conceived as being my attempt at making a Semitic-style triconsonantal clustered root, whatever you want to call it, system, as used by Arabic, Hebrew, Syriac, I think, and probably a number of other languages that I'm not aware of that are all part of the Semitic family. And what that means is that at their core, words are based on groups of consonants, and the meaning is determined by the vowels that are between those consonants, and, you know, various prefixes and suffixes or infixes and things like that. So I wanted my system to display syllables specifically, and it's been built to do that. So it will display an initial letter like K, U, and display the K and the U. This makes it look like a syllabary, but it's actually really probably an alphabet. If I put in a final consonant like T, it will join that together into one syllable, K-U-T. If I add in another vowel, like an A, it will split that so that it is ku-ta. And if I put an N on the end of that, it should just put an N on the end of TA. There. So kutan. If I made that kutani and put an I at the end, it would again split it into 3 syllables. I thought that this would increase the legibility of it, make it easier for me to learn it so that I can read it naturally. And that was the way the design went, evolved. Now, another core concept of Ashuadi, and I don't know where this came from, is that it has a lot of allophones. So, actually, the first one was all consonants. Well, not all consonants. All non-nasal consonants are devoiced by default. Ashuadi does not distinguish for voice. When you get a couple of consonants clustered together, let's make up a word here. Remember, all this is asemic. I'm starting the language from scratch. Let's say we have T-A, P-A, T-A. Excuse me. Tapata. If, in the course of changing things around, the middle A was lost, that would become tapta, which is fine. But what I wanted to have happen is that if 2 consonants are together, one of them will switch to being a fricative or an affricate. So tapta would probably be written tafta. Okay. So that is T-A, P-H or F, doesn't matter. And that is the P symbol that's here, but with a dot below it to indicate that it is an affricate. And that's fine. But the reality is, somebody who is speaking this language is not going to notice that. The F sound is an allophone of the P sound. And therefore, actually putting the diacritic in there to mark it isn't really necessary. Somebody would be saying tapata, and then some other form of it turns it into tafta, but they would just write tapta. And I don't need to distinguish it by putting that dot in there. There was originally a reason for having all this documented, in that this was supposed to be a language that was part of a religion in the world building project that I was engaged in. And as such, you would have people who were learning that language, and the people teaching them would want them to get the pronunciation correct. So there would be more indication to help that out. I believe this happens with Hebrew when people are learning to recite. I'm losing words here, but the Hebrew holy texts, that they mark all the vowels and everything else in there so that it's easier to learn the pronunciation until you get used to it. But that in a lot of normal writing, that was left out. And same thing with Arabic. I've seen Arabic written just with the consonants, and the reader is expected to figure out which vowels are involved in there from context. Now, it's worth noting these diacritics in here are not the vowels. The vowels are like A and A here. They're actually written out. And that's why I'm calling this really an alphabet, even if it doesn't appear to be. So what I'm going to be doing is trying to figure out how much I need to take out of this so that when you go to write it down, when I go to write it down, it will sort of auto-correct to the correct form if you want. So if I put in, going back, wiping that out just to make it clear, if I put in tafta, which I get, that's T-A-F-T-A, but I could also spell it T-A-P-H-T-A, it'll come out the same way. What it will actually write is tapta, with no diacritic under it. And it doesn't matter that I'm using a romanization that includes the phonetic changes because it's easier for me. The actual result will be minus those things. And if I want to have the explicitly documented version that has all the diacritics and stuff, I can switch to another version of the font that has those. That's the idea. So we're going to start editing this sucker and see what happens. Now, again, for people that don't know anything about Adobe OpenType font scripting, let's turn off that. We'll go to Features, which you're not seeing anything for because I have to go over here to the right-hand side of my program and bring up Features. This is the ligature definition that makes all these changes possible. This is Adobe OpenType font scripting. It's got a lot of commands in there, and they're mostly subs, so they're mostly substitution statements. But it's got a lot of them in there, and that's what makes this possible. So I'll start at the top. Actually, I'll start over here, prefix. When you're creating a font like this, you need to have this prefix statement in here that says language system default, default, language system Latin default, because I'm using a Latin keyboard. Once that's in place, the ligature stuff can happen, but it won't work without that. Once I've written that in there, I don't screw with it. Then we come to features. I have only one feature, ligatures, feature liga. And you can see it has a curly bracket at the end there. And if I go way over here and scroll all the way to the bottom, it has the end curly bracket, liga, semicolon. That tells the font that there's some ligature data going on in here, and it should read it. So what do we do here? Well, first off, I don't actually need this statement here. That is was intended to make documenting this work better, and I haven't worked that all out here, but it shows this. Oh, you can't see that. Just a second. There. It displays this little arrow symbol here that I was going to use for documenting changes and things like that. I don't really need that. So I'm going to take that out. And I will actually just rem it out for now so that I don't lose the actual entry if everything goes pear-shaped. Okay, the next line in here, this bit in here, just ensures that we don't have any capital letters. There are no capitals in this writing system, therefore I didn't need to have them. And I don't want to have to define them because a font will say, oh, that's not a lowercase a, that's a capital A. I want a different glyph for it. And I didn't want to do that. I've done it before and then realized I could do this instead. So what this does is it's called a lookup. It's a lookup, and it's been named no caps, and it's defined inside curly brackets and ends with no caps semicolon, much like the liga statement. And all it does is say, substitute any letter from A to Z by lowercase a to Z. So you can type in uppercase letters if you want. You can put in capitals and things like that, and it will just autocorrect them to lowercase. So we're keeping that. Now, one of the other changes I made in my mental design for this writing system was that originally I only had I, A, and U, like Arabic, E, A, U, and no letter E or letter O. I'm going to add the letter E and letter O back in again. So I will rem out this stuff. This line here meant that if you typed an E, it put an I. If you typed an O, it substituted a U. And I'm just taking those out. And we'll see what havoc this wreaks. Then, down here, this is looking up double letters because I wanted a simple way to type stuff in. I'm using a romanization that lets me do that because, man, I'm going all over the place here. Because P has as its allophones F, B, and V, because speakers don't distinguish between the stop and the associated fricative or affricate, and they don't distinguish for voice. This section in here allows me to type in V or BH for V, etc. And I probably don't need most of these. I'm going to be going through and addressing that down the road. But if you take a look here, if you type in PH, P followed by an H on the keyboard, it will display the PH glyph. If you type in SH, it will display the SH glyph. Down here, if you type in F, it will also display the PH glyph. And the PH glyph will be the same as P, but with a diacritic. So if I switch back to this view here and over, I wish I could automate all this, but this program is annoyingly written. Very capable, but annoyingly written. If I type in PA, there's PA. If I type in PHA, there it is with a diacritic. If I type in FA, there it is. If I type in BA, there it is with the hook over top that indicates it's voiced. If I type in BHA, which would be, much like Gaelic, would be va, it has the diacritic over top to say it's voiced, and the diacritic below it to say that it's a fricative or affricate. And if I type in VA, it does the same thing. So I've got all this code in there that makes all of these things the same, and means that you've got multiple ways of spelling things that will all show up the same way in the font. So I'm going to want to take that out too. So we'll go back to the features file once I do that and come over here and rewrite this digraph section, I think. Exciting, riveting content, I know. Okay, so comment. Display. Keyboard's in the wrong spot. My fingers are in the wrong spot. You get garbage. Display stops as no affricates. Fricative, can't spell. Still can't spell, wrong spot. Fricatives as stops. So it'll be a lookup without an error made in the middle of it. One of the other changes I made was to switch to this table with a keyboard tray, and I still can't find the right, it's not quite big enough, so I can't fit everything on there. So it's going to be a lookup. For now, I'll just call it corrections. And that means we have to end with corrections, semicolon. And in here, we're going to say P as a comment. Sub B by P, semicolon. So if you type into B, it will drop a P. Sub F by P. Sub V by P. So the allophones for P are voiced, B, fricative, but not voiced, F, or fricative voiced, V. Those are all the same sound to people speaking this language. They hear them the same way. They don't distinguish between them, even if they say them differently. Now, I also had spellings that were alternatives to that, and I want to cover those too. So we're going to say sub B H by P, sub P H by P, and that probably covers every combination there for P. And we're going to end up doing it with the rest. One thing to note when putting in subrules, the moment the font finds a match, it will stop looking. So if I had this sub B by P at the top here, it would not get as far as BH and edit it. It would see the PH one, and I could do that. I could just put sub B by P at the top there, and then a rule later on that says sub PH by P, I think, but it's better to order them this way. It'll find the full match first, and if it doesn't find that, it'll fail through to the next one and do that. So that's P. We're going to have to do this for you'd think I never learned how to type. T. K. And probably some others when I think about it. Oh, S. So I can write those rules. Sub T H by T. Sub D H, which I use for the by T. Sub D by T. So If I type in TH, it should put in a T. If I type in DH, it put in a T. If I type in D, it will put in a T. I feel like I'm missing another one in there, and it should be obvious, and I'm not, because I've got so many up top there. Because there aren't single characters to match F and V in English, that's why there's less rules. And we go in here, sub, can't type sub, GH, which I use for by K, sub KH by K, sub G by K, sub SH by S, sub ZH by S, sub Z by S. And if you're thinking it, yes, I could just start from scratch and write the font, copying each of these symbols in and stuff like that, and not have to go in and restrict all this stuff. These rules should eventually disappear because I'm going to take out the glyphs that are there, but I want to get it working right the first time. And we'll go back to main. If you look up top here, there are just a few glyphs in this font that I've created over time. And I want to be very careful about removing those. So what I'm doing is trying to get the functionality that I want out of this and make sure that it's working first before I go through and get rid of things. Now, what have we got? We've got P, B, T, D, S, Z, we do have S, which I'm using a C for. Not that, C. Sub T, S by C. Sub, because S as a, it's not quite a stop, it's probably an affricate, right? Or fricative, would get modified as well into ch. I am going to put in CH by C as well. There is no equivalent to a voiced C in Latin, so I don't need to worry about a rule for that. Oh, there is, though. What am I saying? Sub J by C. S becomes ch, voiced j becomes j. So I need to cover those in there with other spellings that I used before that I can see below there. And where possible, I do like to make these alphabetical. So sub D, Z, H by C. This is going to wreak havoc with the spelling. D, Z by C. I'm going to have to learn how to do it, or read it the way it should be. JH. Sub JH by C. And I may change my mind and keep some of these marks and just reduce it down the road. I think that covers the digraphs. So I'm going to rem out this lookup here. And if it all works and I didn't miss something, then, oh, some of these are staying at the moment. So I'm not remming them all out. I'm remming out some of them. That one there is not getting remmed out, for instance. Or that one. But this should be, this should be, this should be, this one, this one, this one. Not these here. We were taking that out as well, separate issue entirely. Then this one is syllables. Probably most of these will never show up. So I can go through them at some point, but I don't necessarily have to take them out right now. I could test it without it because I've already substituted stuff up top there. And we'll see if it has fits. Okay, let's compile this and see if it's working so far. No output error. Back to here. Put on that. So if I type in P-A, oh, hit the caps lock key, sorry. Caps lock off. P-A, I get P-A. If I type in B-A, I get B-A. If I type in B-H-A, I get the same thing. P-H-A, same thing. F-A, same thing. V-A, same thing. So that rule for that one is working. T-A, D-A, T-H-A, D-H-A. That's that one done, I think. K-A, K-H-A, G-A, G-H-A. Yep, all of those are working. S-A, Z-A, S-H-A, Z-H-A. All of those are working. T-S-H-A puts in C-H-A. That's not right. C-A puts in C-A. T-S-A puts in C-A. J-A should put in that. And J-H-A should put in that. But what was that weird spelling I came up with? T-S-H-A? I should cover that too. Not that I'm likely to use it, but it's possible. T-H-A and T-S-H-A. So we go back to features. I wish I had a better way to flick back and forth between these. I don't. So we're going to go back up into the digraph for T. Sub T S H by C, even though it's looking like a different rule. Oh, actually, it could be under C, couldn't it? Yeah, it could. Why add additional confusion? So again, it has to be above the TS match there, or it will never be seen. No. No, that was the wrong thing to cut and paste. We'll just rewrite it. I thought I'd copied that. Sub T S H by C. Why didn't I get that the first time? I've got it there as DZH, and I didn't have TSH. Basically, I'm trying to cover all the possible spellings my brain might come up with in here and fix it so they show up right. Compile. Back to preview. And let's see. TSHA. Same as CHA. Same as CA. Yes, so I'm getting rid of the digraphs there. Now, I do have an instance where I might have to add them all back in again because I want to make sure I could have the vowels E and O. I should check that, E and O. J-E-R. Does not draw the R. Because it doesn't, J-A-R will. Yep, it doesn't know what to do with an E. And you'll see it's actually drawing it as a C there, which is no end of confusion. I might have to keep the I might have to keep the letters like J and stuff. Just because it's going to get very confusing. One of my place names is Jerbesh, which you should be able to see there. But you can see this is now spelling it as Tserpes because a speaker would know that the ts gets voiced to j before a front vowel, and the same thing with the b before the front vowel, and the final s gets Africatized, and that produces Jerbesh. But seeing it on a map as Tserpes might be a little confusing to me, and it's not displaying it correctly up here because the vowels are wrong. So let's go back to features and look at that. Oh, actually, that's where we need to jump right into this, don't we? Because I do have an individual E defined, but it's defined as AI, really. And I do have O defined, but it's AU. Because the original idea was that you only had the three cornerstone vowels of E, A, U, and E, O evolved, which is what I believe might have happened with Hebrew and didn't happen with Arabic, or at least what I've read about in Arabic. And if I type those in right now, you get nothing. E. Oh, you do get it. But no final version of it. It probably doesn't exist. Oh, you do get it. Okala. Now, I did have, how do I want to put this? K-I-T-A. The first syllable here is K followed by I. And that's fine. I would like to get rid of that. The only reason it was originally put in there is because there are some combinations of letters that it gets kind of hard to read. But, I mean, that happens in just about every language out there. And getting rid of yet another diacritic mark might be worth it. If I type in K-E-T-A, it is typing in K. Is it? No, it isn't. It doesn't find a combination for K-E. Then it types in E, which is A-I, and then T-A. So I have to go through and add in glyphs for each of the letters followed by an E or an O. Let's try kota. Kota. Same thing. It misses the K entirely because there's no glyph defining KO. So, back to here. And back to here. And if we go up top here, oh, I should also note that in Ashuadi, there is an initial form of a letter or syllable, a medial form, and a final form. And if we go to preview down below here, zoom in, no, not preview, sorry, features, and go down to the very bottom, you'll see that's handled by this set of lines here. And I haven't even touched on classes, but that's what this is here. Each of these names with an @ sign before it is a class. And when it's in a bracket like this at either end, it means any of those classes and their contents followed by this particular glyph here, get that glyph there. This particular rule allows you to put quotes before and after text, because in most of the Latin fonts that you get on your keyboard, for the West anyway, not in Spain, but for the West, for English, a quote is the same at the beginning and end. But up here, you'll see, you won't see because I'm not on main. Up here, you will see I have two symbols for quote left and quote right. And there is actually another one for quote somewhere too, I think. So what that means is if I go back to preview and over to preview here, so you don't see that stuff there, that rule allows me to have, say, quote, kotan, quote. And that is the left quote, and this is the right quote. And that rule in there distinguishes whether or not the quote symbol is at the start of a word or phrase or the end. It works much the same way with brackets, but with brackets on the keyboard, you actually have a left and right bracket. With quotes, you don't. So I had to define those and write that line of code in there to do that. That's all. So that would type out koan in quotes. Back to the features file. Back to the features close-up. So all of these are groups of glyphs. And this is a rule that says any of the glyphs in these groups, and or classes, I'll show you the classes in a second, followed by a quote BL, quoted BL, which is a quoted bracket left, this one here. That little tick means replace that one glyph by the one after the by statement. Gets replaced by a right. So the default when you hit the double quote on your keyboard is quoted DBL here. And I'm substituting the other one here. Actually, it's probably a different symbol entirely by default. I got a bunch of them in here. Yes, it quoted BL there. I'm probably not using quoted BL left. I am using quoted BL right. I defined them both, but this one here is what your keyboard enters, and that's the one at the top here. Just happens to be the same glyph. So That's what that rule does. This one here changes a solo consonant to its medi form. That is the instead of initial, medial, or final, it switches it to its medial form after another regular or medial syllable. So that's what that rule does. I mean, I can I can print that out and add it as a comment after the video or something like that. The next one joins solo consonants following a syllable to the syllable by switching that syllable to its medial version. So what that means is substitute any syllable before any of the consonants by its medial form. And this one is a double check on that. Look up medi consonants. Excuse me. Submedial consonant. Excuse me. Terrible chest infection here. Substitute a medial consonant that follows another medial consonant by its consonant form. That probably doesn't make any sense, but that's one of the things that splits stuff up into syllables. So what are classes? Also talking too much makes me go here. This here is the all CV syllables. So this is all consonant vowel syllables as a, well, in font terms, it's called a class. It's a grouping of all those syllables so that I can manipulate things based on the group. So that's every possible combination that I've defined up top there, defined as one long list separated by spaces. This is all vowel followed by a consonant glyphs. This is the medial form of every one of the things that I just showed you in the previous two classes. So it is possible to have things, glyphs, combine, and in some ways that would be simpler and I would have less work to do here, but I discovered that the spacing was a real problem and I did not basically want to screw around with spacing. So because I know I want every syllable to display as its own block of text, so to speak, I have built all the possible combinations here to make it easier to redirect to them. And I'm going to be taking some of those out. This is all the consonants. So there's only one actually drawn in there, and I'm not sure why that's there. I do have all the consonants. I don't know why only one shows up there. Because they do exist. This is all the medial consonants. So these are individual consonants in their, well, I'm calling them medial. They're actually final, mostly. In the final forms of writing, so that when you have a syllable that ends in, let's pick one here, K, it will end with that symbol there after the initial forms that have already been defined. I have a feeling that is really not very clear. If I go back over here and back to that so you can read it and wipe this out. If I type K, no, got to actually hit the K key, K, A, you see it has K followed by the A, right? That's the symbol for A. If I finalize that with another K, it draws the medial version. So you'll see down below here at the very bottom, the first glyph part that's drawn here is K_A in its medial form. I ended up collapsing the initial, medial, and final stuff when I created all these syllables. So they're named Medi, but really they're initial. What I don't have is isolated forms at all. And I suppose there could be those added as well. I just haven't figured out how I would want to do it. But KAK like that, it prints out the K_A medial glyph, which is that one there, ending in the A. And then it puts a K Medi, which is the final version, a reverse of this because I like the symmetry of it. And here, I'll get rid of the second K. See, this is the glyph for KA. The medial version of this glyph has an extension that goes out like that, so it can join. And when I put in the second K, that extension overlaps with the start of this final glyph here to make it look totally uniform. If I didn't have that on the Medi form, there would be a little gap in here because this would just end the same way that KA does, and then this would stick out. So I did a lot of work to get all this spaced properly, and the Medi forms of the regular syllables, consonant plus vowel syllables, enable that. I hope that's clear. So the stuff that I was doing in the features file, back up top again. We've got the no caps. We don't have the vowels working right. I'm going to have to write stuff for that. I have the corrections section that I wrote there. And then some digraphs. I made a couple of changes in my mental design for this language to make sure it didn't look or sound like Arabic, and it didn't look or sound like Japanese, which is the other language I had in mind. And therefore, I have allowed kwa and gwa as digraphs, and I'm probably going to lose those. I allow NT, ND, MP, MB, and NK, and therefore there should be NG, but I've rammed that out. But those may change. So this whole section in here may be rewritten, and I'll be able to take more stuff out. I do have the glottal stop as, I should be back on features, sorry. I do have the glottal stop as a sound, as in that little catch in there, if you don't know the glottal stop. And contrary to everything everybody says in conlang construction, where they say don't use a single apostrophe for that, I'm using the single apostrophe for that, because I've read lots of fantasy stories where they've thrown apostrophes in there, and I've always read that as a glottal stop. So that's what I'm doing here, and, to hell with the critics. There is no other symbol that I could type in on the keyboard conveniently that wouldn't look really awkward when you go to display the romanization in a design document. So this section in here is defining the vowels by saying if you get a single quote followed by a vowel, draw the symbol for single quote plus that vowel. That's all it is. I haven't mentioned that I have long vowels here too. Go back to here. Go back to here so you can see it. Right now, You can type in KA and get that, or you can type in KAA and get an extended version, or NII and get an extended version. I'm not sure I like that when it comes to the romanization, but I like the look, and it's something that I believe Arabic did. I'm not sure. Again, I have avoided trying to learn Hebrew or Arabic or any other Semitic language because I don't want it to heavily shape what I'm doing. Unfortunately, that also means I don't understand how those languages work, and therefore I'm having a hard time designing things. And I was trying to study them and emulate them with my own system, and that wasn't working too well because it's not an easy subject. To people that speak those languages, good for you. You've got a terrific advantage. It must be a lot easier learning English. And they're fascinating languages, all of the Semitic ones. What I got lost there, digressing to the destruction of the argument here. I'm going to have to do some method of marking E and O that way. And right now, I do have, man, I wish I could just tear the caps lock key off entirely or disable it. I do have, that's AI. EI, E is A and I combined, right? It doesn't combine there, but that's its origins. I might, let's put that with something. I might get rid of the dot for I and keep it for E, or here's A, put a mark above A, for E, like a dot, and here's U, put a mark above that for O. I would like to get rid of the dot over I. Let's type something really confusing here. Well, hitting the right key would be right. And again, hitting the right key. Okay, that is Y with an extended long double I followed by a Y. And that's already confusing a little bit. If I made it a shorter one. Oh, the spacing's off a little bit on that. The Y medi should be a little closer, or the Y underscore medi should be a little wider, but they should be equal, and they're not quite. I may be wrong, but what I believe Hebrew has done when they're not writing vowel markers, so older writing probably, is use Y for I and W for U. I may have that wrong. And it might be that I should adjust the vowels that way too. Changing the way the vowels work here is going to be a royal pain in the butt and probably a whole video on its own, boring as that will be. But I want to come up with it. I want to create it so that it works correctly. Let me think about that. You can type an initial AA like that, and it adds that tail on there so that you know it's longer. If I put a consonant after it, it gets rid of it, but it's still extended like that. That would be ak. There it is with an M at the start, mak. And if I put an H there, it doesn't do the thing it's used to do, which is cool. Good. So we can go back to preview, back to features, back to features file. And I can probably just go through and ram out anything that looks like it shouldn't need to be there. Shouldn't have to define any of these because we shouldn't need them. And this way I can shorten the features file as well and make it easier to maintain. That shouldn't need to be there. That one does. That one does. There's this inevitable stage when you've made lots of changes like this where you have to go through and just start typing random asemic text to see what breaks. Which is why I'm leaving these statements here rather than just deleting them. Because then I can go and say, oh, well, that used to cover this. Why isn't it covering it now? Because I tried to cover every circumstance pretty much. Those ones I'm not sure if I'm doing anything with. I think I might take those glyphs out. Now, it is important to note that when you're doing this, if you're going to cover your butt, you go and copy the entire contents of your features file off to a separate document and save it. And I've done that. I've got a copy of Notepad++ open right now with a full copy of this in there so that if I have to, I can restore it. Also, when you save the font and it compiles, it writes a version of the features file that you've defined here, all these Liga statements, into the font. But you can't extract those from the font when you go to reload it. So I'm using FontLab Studio 7 here. There's currently version 8 point something out, and I haven't paid to upgrade it because, well, I don't have any spare money. I probably should, though. I'm eligible for an upgrade, and I should do it. It's going to be like $70 US or something. I save these font files in the FontLab Studio 7, I think it's VFC format, and I save the features file separately. So if I had to, if my system crashed or whatever, I could grab the font and reload it in here and go and edit that features file, which I've stored somewhere else, and restore it if I had to. It's bitten me in the butt a few times. I had a couple of system crashes and lost everything because I didn't have good backups. I had backups, but they weren't working. We don't need the ND ones. Shouldn't need these. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to try and compile this, and it's going to have some sort of fit over a rule somewhere. But it shouldn't. Oh, I do have the Wheeler stop cue as well. Part of the reason for all of the shifts that I defined is that I felt they would evolve because I have a very small set of consonants to work from. And I know there are languages like Hawaiian that don't have very many consonants and still manage to survive and be functional. But I like the visual distinction of some of these sounds and the way they work when there's a cluster of consonants. So I think that's where that rule evolved from in my brain. But I'm really not sure. It's been a long time. What I should probably do if I was smart is decide that this is just a naming language, come up with the names that I need, and stop working on it. That would be more intelligent, probably. Okay, now we need to do the other side of things. I shouldn't need any of these with B because it's going to be a P. This is where deleting would be nice, but I'm hedging my bets. And again, I think the end result of this should be the way a speaker of the language would think and see it. That's fine. That's not needed. And that is the eventual thing, the eventual end goal. Because nobody's ever going to learn this language. I mean, I might come close, but nobody else is ever going to bother. The reality of conlangs. We find it fascinating to make them, and it's creative and it's artistic and a perfectly valid area of human expression to find a different way to communicate. But for most people, they speak their language. They don't need any other language unless, they're really forced to, or they would find it a useful tool because of travel or because of, the community they live in might have a mixed language base, and that would be useful. Where I work, I meet an awful lot of Ukrainians. Might be useful for me to learn Ukrainian, at least enough to be polite and say, hi, how are you doing? And, no, we don't have that, or whatever. Okay, there. That's that done. I'm going to compile it. Okay. No error. Back to here. And try and break it. Nope, that's actually working, even though it shouldn't have. Oh, it didn't get the K at the start there. Right, that's the vowel problem. I need glyphs for that. which I will have to make a list of. That should get hak, re, no T finally. It doesn't know what to do after an E. If I put in AT, it does. Shai hulud. Writes Sai hulut, which is what it should do. Okay. I'm going to have to think about how I am going to evolve the vowels. Because I don't really like that look. And I wouldn't mind that with a hook over top of it. We could go down here and just define single vowels. I'm going to have to make a list of them anyway, but element, glyph. I'm also out of touch with my program. So this is me going, how the hell do I add new glyph? Because I haven't done it in a year. New glyph, there we go. Okay. E.medi and O.medi. And let's see how they look. Create blank. Oh, no. Rename. E.medi. Rename. New glyph. O.medi. Great. Now we go back up here, and what I was talking about before was taking that glyph, Control copy, and using Control V, there it is, and back and find top hook like that, and back, and putting that in, and then centering it on that dot there, because this is not a very wide character. It should probably go a little further to the right, off center slightly, because of the curved shape and the extending bit there. The center of the line should probably be a little off. We'll have to see how that looks. And then we're going to use U for the next one. Oh, they're probably not the right versions. Let's look for it would be this is where this bites me in the butt, to be honest. I should probably be deleting glyphs first, just so I scroll through less of them. Where are the initial vowels? A. Oh, I'm going to have to add in a lot of these. This is going to suck. It's going to need to be an initial A and, or sorry, initial E and initial I. And that's probably what I'm drawing right now, even though I don't know it. Copy down to the very bottom. Control V. Over to here. Grab that. Copy. Back to here. Paste. And that is not the medial version of it, because the medial version will have a tail. So I'm going to go find the medial version, which just be somewhere at the top here probably. The other thing that bugs me is that name to me should be at the bottom, not the top. And there's probably some way to switch it, but so that's BU. But did I not draw a medial version of it? I would have thought the bits would be here. Maybe I got rid of those in some earlier iteration. I really do need to go through here and delete all the crap. Even though I hesitate to do that, because then it'll make searching for the pieces easier. Okay, here are medial single consonants. But not the vowels. That is just weird. And a couple that aren't defined. Okay. Okay, we're going to take that and copy it and go up here to the top and replace E, because I really don't like that. Delete V and adjust the right side wall to about there. And then we'll go do the same thing with O. O. Do we even have O defined? Oh yeah, there. Get rid of that. Add that. think that's about the same spacing. So now if I go to preview and down here and type in E-O, I get two isolated versions. I also don't have any diphthongs, and I might add those in there too. Now that looks repetitive because of the hook above it there, and maybe I should use something other than the hook too. But I kind of like the hook as a shape. And it's not going to come up all that often. But what I don't have, or what I do have still, is all the excess stuff here that I am not going to need. And it's going to take great willpower for me to actually go and delete it. But I should do that. It'll make it much simpler. We'll go back to here. No, we won't. Oh, because we're on the wrong tab. Right. Here. That's the features file. It's going to have a much simpler features file. I'm probably getting rid of these two in here, which means I'll get rid of those there. I'm probably going to get rid of a chunk of these too. Oh, don't need these. Probably don't want these, even though I added them in to make things different. Probably don't want these or those. Although I like the way they look. Those could stay. And I have no viewers. Well, actually, it says viewers too, but that's probably SiriBot and Stream Elements. And that's it. I'm going to take a bio break, and then I will come back and start deleting stuff. Actually, what I should do is save this as a new version. Save font as version 1.1. Recompile to make sure there's no output error. There isn't. Okay. Then I'm going to go take a bio break and come back and start deleting stuff just to make it easier to find things and easier to add things back in. So I made an AFK scroll, and I'm going to use it whether you like it or not. There. Is that going to work? No, it isn't. Why not? Because I need to be on main. There. Now it's going to work. Oh, the coffee is catching up with me. Okay, we're back for some values of back. I drink too much coffee. I just realized that, and this is probably not an important distinction, but I'll make it anyway. Get rid of the AFK scroll and go back to preview. That I have been Romanizing Ashuadi like that. And that is not right. And it's showing up as wrong. I should be typing it as Ashuadi, like that, using the W, which happens to be the same as the U. Nobody else is ever going to care. Okay, back to here. Actually, no. Back to here. And I'm going to move this bar out of the way a bit and go through and delete stuff I don't think I'm going to need. Okay. Anything involving a voiced consonant or a fricative like this. And I believe I can just hit Control and start selecting them. Like that. K's stay. The KH's go. I shouldn't select too many of these before deleting, or I know I will have a bad outcome when something gets deleted that shouldn't be deleted, because I've done this sort of stuff before and it only had fits when I did it. But I don't learn from my mistakes, so I'm going to do a few more first. All this work too. And now what I'll do is change my mind later and have to add all these back in again, right? If you misclick when you've got the Control key down here, it will wipe out the selection of what you've made too. And I've done that before and had to start all over again, which is why I really should be doing this in bits. Note that when it screws up later at about 5 minutes. We're going to deal with the clusters like that later. We'll leave that for the moment, and that. And we will delete those. Delete. Yes. Now we go back down to roughly where we were, which is here. Nope, it's above that. It'll take more than one pass. Not that. It was here. You'll note that these are in groups of 3 with the additional consonant followed by A, I, or U. And since I'm adding E and O back in, I'm going to need to generate glyphs for all the ones that are missing. Also going to need to edit the classes, which is going to be a royal pain in the ass. Starting to get towards the end here, at least. Most of those should go. All the voice consonants. And affricates. Okay, and delete those. Another 112. Okay. Now we go back over and look for the things that we missed. Then we compile and find out where we really screwed up. There's inevitably some glyphs in here that don't need to be here. It's almost guaranteed. There's one. But at least the list is shorter. So there's that. The other thing is you have to cover instances that the language might not use, but the font has to know what to do. And that gets harder. If I don't find another one here, I'm going to have to scroll all the way back up just to delete that one glyph. I think I just screwed it up. I did. There's some combinations in here that I should get rid of too, because I don't think they're ever going to come up. But what happens then when I try and type them in and forget that they're not supposed to show up? There's probably a better way to display this stuff too. Oh, that's right. Okay, good. There it is. No, there it is. Again, that name to me should be on the bottom, not the top. That's fine. That's not fine. That should be gone. Delete. Yes. Let us go and compile and see what output errors it produces. Lots. So you see, it will create blanks. These are occurring because they are in the classes. I'm going to ignore that and go edit the classes. Close the output too, for that matter. Can't see how to close the output. Okay, let's go through meaty consonants. So I can see up here that there are ones that are grayed out. Those are missing. So I can take them out of the list down below here. And that should fix some of the errors here. Okay, so okay, Medi has a double I in it. H-Medi has a double I in it. Okay, S-Medi. Same thing, comes from editing these to get rid of stuff. I type it wrong. And the detection that's being done up here is based off of this here, but it doesn't update until you switch. So MP-Medi and NK-Medi and NG-Medi are missing. And I'm just going to take them out. Like that. So we go back here like that. And now they're all here. They're all appropriate there. We go to consonants. And we see there's a bunch missing too. But I'll just go through and get rid of the ones I know I'm supposed to get rid of. Because it's a short list. And toggle. And again, I don't know why these... Oh, those aren't showing up because they're not actually defined as isolated sounds because you're only writing syllables. Okay, I might need to address that too. This is going to be the big one. And I can see the ones that are missing. So we'll just go through and get rid of each of them and update it a bit as we do it. A whole bunch there. And again, a double I, so we'll get rid of that. And toggle. And there's less errors, but not none. This would probably be easier to do in a text editor. And then just cut and paste everything back. And watch your spacing when doing it too. Because it is sort of a wall of text and easily screwed up. We is also much easier to delete this crap than it is to add it in again. A lot easier. Now you'll note up here that it says 117 of 147. That is, there are 147 definitions down here, but only 117 of them exist, and that's why there's these blanks here. So I have to go through and delete the entries down here that match these blanks up here until those numbers balance. When they're balanced, it just shows like that, and everything's good. I've got 18 meaty consonants and 20 consonants, meaty consonants, and 20 consonants. Why there's a difference there, I don't know, but as long as the program isn't having a fit, I'm not worried about it. So somewhere in here, very finicky little things, these files. And the extensions don't help. Wow. Go a little blind trying to focus on this stuff. It's quite tiring on the eyes. Okay, so we're still missing a few. Off by 3. Ha, he, hu. I'm not seeing them in here at all. So I like to have these alphabetically organized, but because you make changes and fix things and everything else, it often doesn't happen that way. Ah, there we go. Ha, he, hu. Gone. What's missing from here? Doesn't look like anything is. Come to this one. Once I get rid of all of this stuff, then I can go through and compile it, and it will tell me what's missing, which helps. misclicked. Also, these are really hard to read. Easy to delete one and then realize you misclicked and deleted part of another listing. These are all vowel initial. And because I have long and short vowels, there's 6 of them for each of the ones that I need to delete. And again, I know it's riveting Twitch content, which I can tell because I have 0 viewers. Well, it says 2, but I don't see 2. Even my wife, who said she would log in to give me support, forgot. Okay, so that one's correct. This one is wrong somehow, and I don't know what's missing, because it looks like each one is showing up. There's no gray spots there. This one here. All those numbers have to balance or the classes cannot be compared. And I'm doing class comparisons. Am I hitting the wrong key? I'm hitting the wrong key. That's what's happening. No, I deleted those. There they are again. What's happening? Again, hard on the eyes.
XX Free Muffins 6. Thanks for subscribing. XX Free Muffins 6 said,
Hey,
no idea
thank you very much.
What's going on here, but
Didn't
have
even
my
have my
Prime
headphones
sub
on.
LOL.
I am editing a font for a fantasy language that I created, or I'm working on creating, to make it simpler.
Granny Dayak said. Looks very cool.
Yeah, here I will. What am I on here? I'm on those syllables there. Preview. That's what it looks like when you type it out. This is what you actually type in to get that. And this here is, oh, I got to switch to features. This here is the scripting that goes through and makes that possible. So what it does, I do not have a smooth system for doing this stuff. It groups letters together as syllables. So, K, nothing gets drawn because it's not a syllable yet. KU, KUT, KUTUM. So that would be kutum. And what it means is when I'm going to design create a design document for the language, for how the language works, I can write text in its own writing system, then write it in the regular Latin alphabet so that people who don't want to bother learning my writing system, including myself, can understand what I've written. But it looks better in a design document for a language you're creating to have its own writing system. So I've created a number of languages for different projects. This one is just for me. It's for part of a huge world building thing that I was working on years ago and got completely diverted because I decided I had to create the language and therefore I had to create the writing system. And I've created the writing system but never finished the language. It's my approach to creating languages is sort of like a red setter on meth. I just hair off in all directions. I have created a language and writing system for a BBC Kids show that probably will never get made, which was too bad, but it was fun to work on, and they paid me. I've got a letter from them on my wall here that is, we really appreciate your efforts. It was awesome, from the BBC, which is cool. Kudos. And I created a language and writing system for a pen and paper role-playing game called the Nuwadan Chronicles. It was published by a couple down in Atlanta, Georgia. And they seemed appreciative of that, and that was cool, and I got paid for that. I haven't done any other paid ones. This one is for me. I like the writing system. I had an idea of what I wanted to create. I based it off the shapes of a style of Arabic called Kufic, which I don't read. I don't know any Arabic. But I borrowed the art style pieces from different drawings and writings that I saw and thought, oh, that's a cool shape. I'll take that. And then I evolved it to this. And if you go back here, and where's the bar? There. Look, I made a lot of glyphs. I'm actually in the process of deleting glyphs to make this simpler. But I'm happy with it. I think it looks cool. It's a fantasy writing system, and it has spiky bits. What more do you need, right? I've tried to make the language about 4 or 5 times, and I've set myself a very, very hard task to do it. And I've made like 5 attempts to bend my brain around it and given up on each of them at one point or another because of something that I came up against that I didn't understand. And now I'm inspired to simplify the writing system so that I can go and make another attempt at creating the language. And instead of trying to emulate languages in the real world like Hebrew and Arabic and ancient Egyptian and Akkadian, which is what I was kind of basing this on here, I'm just gonna think outside the box and make my own stuff and see if it works. Because trying to write something that was uh, almost realistic because it was similar to existing languages, even if they're ancient languages, that didn't work. It doesn't really work for me. As I said, this was part of a big project I had that I was just doing for my own benefit because it was fun. I have a whole world. I have an area of it defined. I have culture and history and things like that. And I wanted to make the any maps that I produced and any names that I produced uh, linguistically consistent because I'd invented enough of the language to be able to derive those things and have them sound correct. Kind of like Tolkien with all his stuff. And I mean, he's a great inspiration for just about every conlanger out there. So I made this. I have iterated it through probably 100, 120 different variations, some of them big, something small. Sometimes it's mostly just a little change here or there. And now I'm in the process of simplifying it because I think I made it more complex than I needed it to be. And I think if I make it simpler, I'll have better luck in trying to create the language. I hope that makes sense. And by the way, thank you for dropping by. I've had 0 viewers pretty much. So thanks for noticing and dropping by. I will be on playing City of Heroes tonight in, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours or something like that. I'm not going to do this for too much longer, but I wanted to get through to a logical point to stop and then save it. And then I'll do it again next Tuesday if I can, for instance. If you're interested in all of this font stuff, I have a YouTube channel.
TFG.
There's the address.
Said. I post all of my font-related content to my YouTube channel located here, https www.youtube.com thatfontguy.
So I have the old school gaming with that font guy, which is where I post all the Twitch VODs. And then I have that channel, which was actually my original YouTube channel, where I put all this stuff.
Said, is this like a language creating application?
No, this is a program called FontLab Studio. It is for creating fonts. Regular fonts, you know, like produced by professional people. It's massively complex, and I only understand a tiny little bit of it. I mean, I'll just scroll over the menu up top here when I can find my mouse. There it is. And you can see that there's an awful lot of things in here that you can do to create a font. The current manual is online, but the previous one was a PDF, and it was over 1,000 pages. That's somewhat intimidating. I haven't taken a course in this. I've self-taught myself from simpler software to this software. And this is pretty much probably the top-notch stuff.
Said, 1,000 page manual, wow.
Yeah, actually a little over 1,000 pages. I think it was 1,018 or something like that. That was for version 5. This is version 7. Version is 8 point something is out. I don't have that yet. It's going to cost me like $80 American to upgrade, and I should do that. I think they're a little like Microsoft where or Star Trek movies where, you know, the odd number is good, the even number isn't, or vice versa, whichever it is. Even number was good on Star Trek, I think. So I'm not sure about the upgrade. I haven't gone to look at the features and stuff like that, but I should probably keep up with it so that when they come up with version 9, it's just an upgrade for me and not a whole replacement of it. Anyway, this is font software. I am abusing the living crap out of font software. Normally what this does is let you build a font. That's what it's supposed to do. But there is a thing called Adobe OpenType font scripting and ligatures. And that is, you're not on the right page there. There. That's what this is here. Let me scroll that up just a bit. This is the font scripting. So at its simplest, right at the top here, these lines here say there's no capital letters. So if you type in a capital letter, substitute it by the lowercase letter. That's all that does there. Because my language writing system doesn't have any capital letters. Most don't. This one in this section in here is saying, for instance, if somebody types in T or H, H after a T, just draw the T. And that's all this stuff does in here is simplify the spelling that I had before, which had more sounds and diacritics and everything else defined. But the speakers of the language don't recognize that. So I realized I don't need that. So that's why I'm simplifying things. And then there's other stuff down in here that's doing essentially the same thing. And I'm remming out stuff I don't need, and I will eventually delete it. And at the very bottom down here, yeah, there was a lot of this. It took a while to write it.
XX Free Muffins 6.
This stuff here
said,
does other stuff.
This is making me think of Webdings and Wingdings fonts used to mess around with those as a kid and was extremely confused, LOL.
Yes, well, you can define anything and create the glyphs as a font if you want here. So just to show that off, this is how you spell HA in my writing system. So, I mean, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to screw it up, but you can drag these points around in here, add lines, add shapes, define where it's drawn. So when you hit H, it starts drawing it at the 0, point, if you remember your high school math, and it stops drawing this glyph over here on the right, what do they call it, side barrier. The next glyph gets drawn right after this. So I don't know if you know this, but every letter in a document is actually a tiny little vector drawing. And as you type them, the font goes and looks for the glyph that it should get, and it draws it out like this shape here, or like the letter T or S in the Latin alphabet. It draws the sucker out. And that's why you can scale the size of a font, because it's a vector drawing and it just draws it slightly bigger. And if I was to move this over to here somewhere, then the next letter would be drawn right over top of this and going to the right. So you have to space all these things and balance it all out. And there's a whole thing called kerning, which has to do with adjustments of how close some shapes are to each other to make it look more balanced and stuff like that. I barely touch that. But I find it fascinating. I've always loved writing systems. I got in shit at grade 4 because I'd learned how to write Viking runes. And I thought they were cool. And I thought, well, everybody must know that. So I answered some English quiz entirely in Viking runes, and the teacher had a fit. What the hell is this? It was funny. I haven't forgotten it anyway. But I've always liked writing systems. I liked Cyrillic when I was learning Russian. I like the Greek alphabet. I love Arabic, but I don't speak a word of it and I can't read it. Same thing with Hebrew. I think it looks fantastic. Can't read it. Same thing with Egyptian hieroglyphics. I've kind of dropped it, so I might never finish it, but I started creating a font that lets you do Egyptian hieroglyphics. Here is the link to my Patreon. I can't remember if it's free or not. I think it is.
Patreon. If you like this content, you can download many of the fonts I have created there as well. https patreon.com/font-guide.
Well, that's a Patreon appeal too. But if you go there, you can sponsor me for $1 and you can cancel it right away if you want. But in between, you can download the fonts that I've made there if you want to play with them. The Egyptian one should be free. Currently, if somebody's studying Egyptian, they have to load up one of a couple of different programs written in Java, compose all the hieroglyphics, save it as art, and then import it into their word processor. I wrote 3/4 of a font that would let you display Egyptian hieroglyphics and just enter them in a word processor. You just go to the spot where you want to write Egyptian, switch to my Gardener's Egyptian font, and using a series of commands that are programmed into it, it would put the glyphs together for Egyptian and stack them and everything else. It's not easy to use, but it uses the same key combinations that those Java programs do, because I don't think you should have to do it that way. I thought it would be possible to do it just as a font. The problem is that, excuse me, it takes a lot of glyphs to do that. A lot like this thing, but with thousands. And it was getting really boring and hard on the eyes to make all the additional versions I needed, and I kind of lost steam and gave up and went on to work on something else, and I haven't gone back to it. I probably should, because I hate to leave things undone. That's why I'm still working on this language and writing system when I have this whole world that I wanted to document and everything. Originally, it started as I'm going to build my own world for Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't like any of the existing ones, so I'm going to build my own. And then it evolved to, okay, I've got an idea about culture and history and what I want to do. I should create the language so I can create the maps, so I can create the names. And I got sidetracked. And then in the middle of all that, I thought, I don't really like D&D either. It's not evolving in the direction I like. I should write my own role-playing game. So I've got about 120 pages of that done. I haven't touched it in a year or 2 or 3. Actually, before the pandemic. So just before the pandemic was the last time I was playing with it, I think. And I'll probably never finish it, because you know what? Writing a role-playing game is really friggin' hard. But I thought, I'll build a role-playing game that suits the type of world that I'm trying to build, and then I can define my world in that game. And yeah, never finished that either. However, they're fascinating intellectual exercises. And I was a linguistics major in university, so languages have always kind of been my thing. Okay, what I was doing last when you guys rudely interrupted me was get rid of syllables in here that I don't need. And you can see there's a bunch of them that are missing up here. And I just have to go through this list and get rid of all the ones that shouldn't be there until all the errors above there go away. However, they're really hard to see. That one goes. This is just a text string down here that describes all the glyphs that I've created. And since I'm simplifying things, I'm getting rid of glyphs. Which means I've deleted the glyphs, but the font is still saying, well, hey, you said there was this glyph and it's not here, so we're going to crap out on you. Sorry for the coughing, but I'm talking so much, my throat is going dry. Despite all the coffee in the known world. That one. Oh, to make things more complex too, my language originally only had 3 vowels, like Arabic, and I've decided to add E and O in there as well, so it's more like Hebrew. And that means I'm going to have to draw a pile of new glyphs too. We haven't gotten there yet. Hope you guys are doing fine. Doing fine. New brain. Also distracted. Okay, so now when I tab over here to there, that one's working. So this one here is the only one with a problem. And I don't have the slightest idea what that problem is. So what we do is compile. And it tells me I'm missing za, zi, zu. They exist in the features definition, don't exist in the current font. Ignore. Features definition. And where the hell is it mentioning za, zi, zu? Be helpful if it gave you like an actual error and a line number and things like that. But no, not quite that evolved. Za, zi, zu, there they are. We can just ram those out. And now when we go back to here, right. So there's an error in classes where it says medial syllables. It's found 111 of them and it expects 9 more. And that should normally be a case where it would produce missing glyphs. And I don't see why it is doing that. Drag that over more so I can see more of this stuff. No, my glyphs are too friggin' wide. And again, the error messages don't tell you squat, fortunately. So I would say I have 119, but I should have 9 more or something. So these ones are all there. That's fine. I'll close that up there. These ones are all there. No error. These ones are there and they're defined down here, but they don't show up here because I don't actually have glyphs for them. And these ones are all defined there. And they're all good. As I can you see? Oh, you can't see it there. Just a sec. I've scrolled it out of the way. There. Sorry. So this one here, there's 114 glyphs in this list down here, and it found all of them in the font. This one, this is all syllables that begin with a vowel and end with a consonant. They're all there, and they're all found. This here is not all found, but they all appear to be there, so I'm missing 9 things, it looks like, and I don't have the slightest idea what they are, which is a pain in the butt. And then this one's fine, and this one's fine. This one here is just consonants. This is consonants that appear at the end of a word.
XX Free Muffins 6 said, I gotta go, thanks for making me even more confused than when I showed up.
You are perfectly welcome. I'm always glad to confuse you, X-Free Muffins. Not a problem. You can show up anytime I'm streaming, and if you're not confused, just ask me to confuse you, and I'll make my best effort. I can talk about things you understand nothing of and have no interest in for hours, probably. So, no problem. If it isn't this, maybe PHP programming, unless you know PHP programming. In which case, I can talk about database normalization, unless you know that. Maybe you do. If not, obscure history, whatever. Happy to confuse. Always happy to confuse. And happy when you come by. So thanks. Thanks for dropping by, even if you have to run. What the hell is the problem here? Okay, these are all medial syllables. And these are all medial consonants. So there should be one syllable per consonant here. And maybe the way to do it is to pull it off into a text document and check it that way. Copy. Text editor. New. Paste. And of course, it does it, but it doesn't do it. Conveniently. I'm sure, since this is Notepad++, I could easily write a script that formats all this stuff here. But I haven't written a script in Notepad++ for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years at least. And I can't be arsed to learn how to do macros again. Used to do them all the time. Fantastic program, and it just reached its 21st year. Probably the best text editor for free for Windows or Linux you'll ever find. I don't think you can run it on the Mac. I think you can run it on Linux. Not sure. So all I need to find is why this array of glyphs doesn't match the other arrays of glyphs. It'll be some simple little thing, and I might even find it just while formatting this stuff. But inside the program, in that little window at the bottom there, it is extremely hard to read, very hard on the eyes, and easy to miss crap. There should be, in the end, 18 different letters defined here, because I have 18 consonants, and this is supposed to be the medial syllables, and there would be 3 of them for each one. And when I go to add in the letters E and O, I'm going to have to define glyphs for all of these, which is going to be a royal pain in the butt. And that's one of the reasons why I'm deleting stuff from this font, because I don't really need it, and I shouldn't have defined it, and I did. And then when I have to go fix it, I won't have to create as much stuff or end up creating stuff that I didn't need to create, etc. Okay, now we go back to consonants and get this list here and go back to Notepad++ and file new and paste those in there and see if this helps me at all. Don't know if I can tear off a page here or not. You're not seeing anything that I'm doing either. Let's go here. Nope, that won't do it either. Features, I'll just have to move this down a little bit. Okay, a lot. There. So I've grabbed two of the definitions for classes that I have here. And this is one. Can I do that? No. Open in... New. Yeah. Okay. Can you open a new window? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Anyway, quote single C, H, and K. Quote single 3, which is fine. H, K, L, M, N, L, M, N, P, Q, R, P, Q, R, S, T, W, Y. R, S, T, W, Y. Yep. N, T, N, D, M, P. N, T. Don't need N, D. MP, NK. Gonna get rid of these too. That's all the single vowel consonants. These are the doubles. Okay, so Q, C, H should be the same list again. Q, quote single, C, H, K, L, M, N. K, L, M, N, B, Q, R, S, T. And P, Q, R, S, T. W, Y, and then into the weird ones. W, Y, and then NTA, NTI, NTU, but don't we have those up here? NTA, NTI, NTU. They're duplicated. Ah. So it was NK, NG, and NT, and MP. That's confusing. NT, NK, NK, NK. Those are NK underscore A. If I come down here, I have NK underscore A, yeah. So that's duplicated. These are just listed wrong. I should do it better. I should cut that. Oh, phone call. Just a sec here. I'm back, and if anybody showed up, I'm sorry if you were confused as to what's going on. I just noticed that I'm streaming in the middle of the US election results coming in, so that would explain the complete lack of people watching me, in part. So what was I doing? I was cutting this stuff and putting it up here. Excuse me. Because then the list will make more sense. Right now it's harder to track any problems because, well, they're separated into 2 bits. So, really exciting, riveting content. I realize that. This stuff is as dry as a bone. Oh, I put that in the wrong spot. That's why that looks wrong. I got to make these class lists match. You can see over here they don't. And that means I'm missing some glyphs, or I have extras. Probably I have extras, and that's why the numbers aren't matching. Oh, well, there's a problem right there. Good. Oh, no, it isn't a problem. I just hadn't scrolled down far enough. Damn, I thought I'd been clever and solved the problem, but not so much. Big gap here. Let's get rid of the gap. Just so I don't do that again. A lot of font editing for me is actually done in a text editor with these classes. Because honestly, the classes need better support, I think. I need a better system. Maybe in the new version of the program they have that. I don't know. Q. R. S and T. If you can hear that on mic, I apologize for it. It's not a storm outside, it's my stomach rumbling. Evidently, I didn't eat enough or had too much coffee and not enough food. T, W, and Y. W. And Y. NTA. This will make more sense in a minute, I hope. MPA. Oh. We'll skip that. NG. That should be AA. I. And U. And wasn't. Oh, there they are there. Okay. All of those there. here. And those can go up there. NK. Okay, so when I go over here, we have the letters of the alphabet, including quote single, which I'm using as a letter. Start at the top. Quote single, 6 definitions. Yes. C, H, and K, 6 definitions. L, M, and N. L, M, and N. P, Q, R, S, T. P, Q, R, S, T. There should be 6 of these for each of them. W and Y. W and Y. So we got that far. Then NT, bugs me that those are in the wrong order. Just a sec. MP above. Then NK. NK and NG. Then KW, which I'm probably going to take out, should be listed up here. So it should run KW, 6 of them, after Y. Then MP, which is missing 3, and that's part of my problem. Then NK and NG. Should appear here. And then NT. NG, NT, yes. So MP is missing. Even though I might take these out, I want to get it all fixed. MP, got to be able to spell too. Can't spell. Hands in the wrong spot. That'll do it every time. MPAA.medi. MP underscore II.medi. And MP underscore UU.medi. So that there should match this here. Each of them should be the same. We do have the KW, right? Yes. MP, NK, NG, MP, NK, NG, NT. Yes. So now I should be able to take this. I could have just done Control A. Copy it. Come back into the font software. And MIDI syllables. Replace it. And save it. And now it all works. Hey, hooah. So we can save that. File, save font. Okay, so now I should be able to come over to features and compile it. And it's still getting an error. Why? Oh, is that the old output? Just a sec. Close the output. Come back to here and recompile. Nope. Target glyph class in subrule doesn't have the same number. Target has 20, the replacement 18. A aborted because of errors. So somewhere in the features file, in here, what does that output say? Glyph class in subrule doesn't have the same number of elements. So I come back to here, and it's missing something in the subrules here, and there's a lot of friggin' subrules, so we'll be deleting all the ones we don't need, just because that will clean crap up. So we're getting rid of that. I had avoided doing this, but I'm not going to now. We'll leave it. Get rid of these. That one there is probably one of the errors right there, because those glyphs don't exist. Leave the S or it doesn't work. And D, that should be gone. And B, that should be gone. That might be the problem fixed right then and there. Get rid of all these. And all these. And all these. And those. And we don't need new anymore. Those. Those. Got to remember when I put a note saying new in there that I should go and get rid of them when I add the next new, because I've got lots of those in there and they're no longer new. So these are all letters I've stopped using, and therefore I don't need substitutions for them because of the way I'm redesigning this. So all I had done was rem them out. Now I'm actually getting rid of them, which should simplify things greatly, I hope. But there is a lot of statements there. Like I said, a lot of my font design is actually done in text editors. And it's actually bad design, in my opinion, that I added all this stuff without thinking the problem through correctly the first time. Like I should have. Okay, let's see if that solves the problem. Go over here. Close the output so there is no error. Come back to here and recompile. Still got an error. Target has 20, the replacement 18. So maybe it's still the classes. Yes, there's something in consonants here that shouldn't be here. Right there's one of them. And that's probably the other one. And now if I go back and compile, no problems. Right. So save this puppy. We'll save font, and it should be up and running. There's more stuff that needs to be done. There's stuff that needs to be added, but at least I've got it to this point, and it's not broken. That's always good. So now I need to go through and figure out what other things need to be added. And you can see if you look up here, let me go to main. Oh, I've still got the AFK message running there, and you probably never saw it. You can still see there's a lot of glyphs here, and I'm going to have to add in a bunch. I'm going to take out a few more, but I'm going to add in a bunch. And that's going to take a bit of work. We did add in tentative forms for E initial and O initial. And I don't think there's any code in there for them at all, but maybe I can see if I can do a O initial word. Let's say, just making epistemic text, okutu, and it does draw the O and the rest of the word, but it won't do it if I type in equal signs either. O M A. It draws the MA. Oh, you don't have the feature zoom in there. It draws the MA glyph, but it doesn't draw O_M because I haven't defined that. So that's back to the features file and creating the missing glyphs. So I'll have to make a list of what I'm missing. There should be probably 72 glyphs I need to make. Some of which are going to be really time-consuming but simple. Like, because I'm adding in 2 vowels, let's go pick a good example here. Here is HA. My E symbol is going to look like the loop that indicates an A here with a diacritic over it. So to make HE as a glyph, I can just copy this and paste in the diacritic and line it all up. And that's that glyph done. But I'm going to have to do 72 of those and then some more scripting to add those in. Not impossible. Just a little time consuming. Anyway, I will be sending this to my other YouTube channel, the one for the font stuff. Here's the address.
Said, I post all of my font-related content to my YouTube channel located here, https://www.youtube.com that font guy.
Possibly next Tuesday, and see if I can get the rest of it finished. And then if I get it all working the way I want, maybe I can do a stream about creating the actual language and my thoughts on that. That is going to be more complex. Because I'm still contemplating redesigning my entire attempt at the language and just tossing out all my previous attempts and thoughts on it and everything else and just basically starting again. This is a Semitic style triconsonantal root language, and I don't understand those. So I tried to emulate historical languages like Arabic, Hebrew, and Akkadian, and Egyptian and things. And I like those, but I don't speak or read any of them, and I don't understand them well enough to try and come up with my own design based on those. So I may just say, screw it, and just think outside the box and make my own from that and see how that goes. Because previous attempts didn't work. So we'll see. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully people see this on YouTube, and hopefully people will show up for the next stream when I do it. I'm Canadian, forgive me. I didn't notice the election was going on in the States today, So I imagine most people are busy watching that and, you know, fearing the worst either way, depending on how your politics lean. Personally speaking, I'm not an American. It's not my say as to who you elect. I believe in democracy. I hope you guys lean left enough to support Kamala Harris. I don't like Donald Trump, but you are free to disagree with me. And I just encourage everybody to vote because everybody in a democracy should always vote and let the will of the people decide. We'll see you later. Thanks very much for watching, whoever did. I did have a few people show up, so there's that. I don't stream and just chatting, and I'm, not a YouTube bathtub girl or anything like that. So, getting anybody is probably a good thing. We'll see you next time, and have a good night. And we will go to there and there and turn off that. That did not work. Turn off that and end. Good night.